All right. First, why don't you tell people who you are?
My name's Mike Denton. I've been a professional geneticist for most of my life. I wrote a book called Evolution Theory in Crisis many years ago, which became a foundational document for a movement called intelligent design. Basically, the intelligent design movement, which is also, of course, anti-Darwinian, has slowly flourished and is gaining more and more members as time goes on. The idea that the intelligent design movement is some sort of crackpot, sort of crazies here, who are trying to defend biblical fundamentalism is a fantastic misconception. Basically, at this conference, for instance, some of the people I've met here are among the brightest I've met in my scientific career. They are bright, articulate, and they are very critical of Darwinism, and they have cogent, rational reasons for being critical of Darwinism.
When you say critical of Darwinism, maybe you could be more specific. Let's not assume that everyone has heard all about this.
Well, basically, they don't believe that the whole development of life on Earth can be accounted for in terms of little random steps. In other words, random change and selection. They reject that as the sort of creative force behind life on Earth. They say there must be other causal factors involved in the evolution of life on Earth. Some of them don't even believe in evolution. I personally believe in common descent of some sort, but I totally myself reject and accept most of their arguments against the Darwinian paradigm. The selection of small random events, in my view, is simply an inadequate view. An inadequate explanation, my jet lag again from Australia, to account for the development of life on Earth. In fact, I'm quite radical in my views because, in fact, I think modern biology is just entering its golden era now. And there are issue after issue that needs to be solved. We don't know how life originated. And frankly, I think that, in fact, the great majority of origin of life researchers throughout the world know, even if it's covertly, they know there is no explanation for the origin of life. And one of the things that's being discussed here is that there is no explanation for the origin of life. And the people who have put up explanations for it and the people who are criticizing the standard explanations are completely rational. And in debate with more and more people, they're winning their point of view. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Is this?
Yeah, absolutely. Over lunch, you were talking about a brewing sense, actually, in the literature now, in conferences, that something is
afoot.
Yes. Why don't you say a little bit more about
Holmes
that?
used to say, the game's afoot. So something's going to happen. Yes, I believe that, in fact, my personal view might not be shared by everybody here, is that, in fact, what's really happening in biology now is the failure of a great paradigm. Since the 17th century, Western science has made an assumption about biological systems, that they are essentially very like machines. Now, when you think about it, this is an extremely depressing view to hold about ourselves and living systems, that we're just a sort of complex machine. But that has also been a very successful, heuristically, it's been very explanatory, it's worked very well. And there are undoubtedly a lot of things in a cell which are machine-like, so there's no doubt about that. But I think myself that we're going to find out that, in essence, to use an Aristotelian term, living things from bacteria all the way to humans have features and qualities to them which will never be reproduced in machines. This is what you might call the vitalist scenario about the world, right? In other words, the machine analogy is fundamentally wrong. And why do I think that, in fact, biology is entering into a new post-mechanistic era? Because for the last century, the century of the gene, everybody was searching for a blueprint. Why do you need a blueprint? Because if living things are a machine, you need a blueprint to copy the form of the machine through the generations, right? And we've been looking for that blueprint. And one dramatic sort of revolutionary event that's occurred, I think, is a growing perception since 2000, but it's accelerating, that there probably isn't any blueprint. And the whole question of hereditary and development is now sort of, an open question. And so basically, from now on, what's going to happen is there's going to be discovery after discovery made, which are not going to fit into the mechanistic view of the previous view of life at all. And we're entering into what I would call a new epigenetic, vitalist era of biology. That's,
What do you mean by-
This is very controversial. But
What do you mean by an epigenetic vitalist era? Like,
well,
let's not assume that
basically,
people have heard these terms.
the mechanistic view is that you have a blueprint, and the blueprint specifies in exact detail the form of the organism. But if the form of the organism isn't specified in the blueprint, it has to come from somewhere else, right? And machines are only specified in blueprints. They don't. But in the case of living things, if all the information isn't in the blueprint, it has to come from somewhere else. And there's two places it could come from. It could come either from the creative activity of the organism itself, in other words, generated epigenetically beyond the genes, by the agency of the organism itself. This is highly radical, I know, but that's one possibility. That's the vitalist. That's classic vitalism. The cell is a sort of a vital force which takes the information in the genome and molds it into the adult form of the organism. That's classic vitalism, which goes right back to sort of the classical times. Right? The other possible source of the order, which is not in the genes, not in the blueprint, is in nature itself, like Aristotelian forms. This is the medieval doctrine was substantial form. All medieval Westerners, Christians, Jews, and Toledo, everybody accepted the doctrine of substantial form, that life was immanent in nature. Its order was part of the natural order itself. And when you think of it, Western civilization that rejected that idea in the 17th century and adopted the machine conception, right, was an immense exception, because cultures throughout the world have always accepted that, we are natural parts of the world. There's nothing peculiar about us. We're not sort of artifacts or chariots of the gods. We're actually immanent, natural parts of the natural order, like a salt crystal, like a galaxy. We are sort of intended to be here by the nature of things from the very beginning. Okay, I'm not rehearsing this.
I have a suggestion.
Yeah.
I have a suggestion. Why don't we take questions from the audience? Why don't I upload this so far, and I'll ask them if they have specific questions for you.
Which audience?
Ricochet. Say hello to Ricochet. They're your audience.
Who's Ricochet?
Oh no! Don't say that.
Oh, sorry. Is that? Can you cut me down?
No. We are not going to edit the record here.
So therefore, let me just say, my view is that eventually the blueprint model will collapse, and with it, the mechanistic model of biology. Life will go back to be part of nature and be endowed with vital powers. Okay, this is why I don't share this pessimism, because I think biology's on the edge of a great revolution. Now, the revolution that's involved in this is absolutely world-shattering and transforming. Forget quantum mechanics or anything else, because it puts mankind and the forms of life on Earth back into nature, and it endows them with vital powers, like human agency, the freedom of the will. Okay?
I think that's a good place to end for now and take questions. So we're going to submit your questions, and I will ask, as soon as I get a free chance, we'll actually take the written questions, and I'll ask you to
Right.
to do just what we just did here.
Whatever you want to do.
Okay.
Have I been okay?
You've been great.
I'm not very